whoever you are,
whomever you love,
wherever you are on your life's journey.
You are welcome here. Hello from the Thomas family in Las Cruces, New Mexico. We want to tell other families what we've been doing to stay happy and hopeful.
Do something peaceful.
Do something you like.
Give each other space when you need it.
Get outdoors and don't put too much pressure on yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Stay well.
Hi, we wanted to talk to you about what it's like to be confined to your home with only your family. We've been finding a lot of fun things to do to keep ourselves occupied.
I've been playing ping pong.
I've been talking to friends.
We've been going on family walks and watching movies and connecting with other family members on Zoom.
We've also been playing games and other activities together as a family.
But don't feel like you have to spend 100% of your time making fun family activities. Don't be afraid to take time for yourself because everyone needs to rest and recharge.
Even Mom and Dad.
We can't wait until we can see everybody in person again. Until then, take care and stay safe. Bye.
Bye.
Warm welcome. If you are new to SMUUCh and want to know more about our church, please fill out our Get in Touch form using the link in the video description below. And now, a few announcements from our minister.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Rose, the minister of SMUUCh. It is a joy to see you and an honor to be broadcast into your homes. During this time of great grief and uncertainty, we come together still to celebrate the presence of the holy. One fun announcement is that we will have online fellowship hour today at 11:45. Because of online security, we have to keep this login info protected. So look in your weekly email, scroll down a few times, and you'll find it. And if you want that weekly email, just fill out a Get in Touch form on the website. In the last few months, we have found ourselves having to be courageous in ways we didn't know we would, but this little church has proven itself mighty. In these times of great need for connection and community, your church leadership has pushed hard to make safe and usable online resources, and we are so glad to see you each time you engage. Not only does it let us know that you are okay, but your presence means so much to other people, more than you could ever know. We are partway through our annual stewardship campaign and have raised $64,000 of the budget from 1/8 of the pledging households. We invite you to share in these weeks of stewardship work not only by giving generously, but we also invite you to build connections by participating in our community, engaging with each other, reminding each other that we are part of a #CourageousChurch. Please get your pledges in. Together, we are better. Together, we are a #CourageousChurch. Come, let us worship. Please join us for our opening hymn, also our hopening hymn, with a slight change. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Number 361.
Enter, rejoice, and log in. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your hands, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and log in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Please join me as we light our chalice and affirm that love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another.
This is the time in our service where we expand the love of our community. I invite you into this moment by putting your feet flat on the floor, drawing your awareness to your breath, coming into a moment of stillness and prayer. This is the time where we draw to heart and mind those in our midst who are suffering. Today, on Easter Sunday, today, on the halfway point of Pesach or Passover. Today, as the Islamic world prepares for Ramadan, we send a great gratitude to everyone who has chosen not to gather, to everyone who has opted for isolation and distance instead of important religious gatherings. A great thanks to the Kansas Supreme Court, for we are still keeping bright in our hearts the people for whom this pandemic has marked a great ending. For all of the 110,000 dead, for those who have died alone, for their families and loved ones who could not be with them and now cannot have a visitation, cannot know where their loved one's body is, cannot mourn. Let us mourn with them and celebrate that the dead live on, resurrected in our hearts. Let us draw the circle wider to include those who are or have been with the dying, the doctors and nurses, the paramedics, chaplains, and gravesite workers who in New York are delivering to and burying in the potter's field. Let them find peace with what they've seen. Let them find rest, free of guilt. For all who are isolated, depressed, anxious, struggling not to use, may you be patient and find strength. Know that we are thinking of you. May a great wave of enlightenment pass over this great earth and turn us around, to place the earth and her beings at the heart of our every prayer. May we give ourselves a great gift of mindfulness, letting go of productivity, simply resting, finding freedom and liberation in this time. And as always, we rejoice over the exquisite beauty in this world, as small or life-changing as each piece of beauty might be. You are now invited to comment in the comment section of the live chat your joy or sorrow. Remember that this moment of sharing happens online and remains public for all viewers joining us today. To further join us together in our beloved community, today we will read aloud the names of those who posted joys and sorrows while I light the candles.
Amy, Lori, we light the remaining candles for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts.
Let us become mindful. I invite you to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, to offer yourself a moment of gentleness and kindness. I invite you to squeeze your arms, give yourself a little hug. Remember that we are all actually all just big babies. You can always rock, hum, and cradle yourself like you are your own little baby, and it'll calm you right down. I invite you to draw your attention to your breath. Follow it all the way to the top of the breath, all the way to the bottom. Just noticing where there's tension, just drawing your awareness out, offering yourself this enjoyable experience of being alive. And now let us take up a mantra. As you breathe out all the way to the bottom of your breath, I invite you to think the words, let out. And then pause there and think, let be. And as you breathe in, let in. Breathe out, let out, pause at the bottom, let be. Breathe in, let in. Let out, let be, let in. Let out, let be, let in. Blessed be, and amen. Please continue breathing for our reflective hymn, When I breathe in peace.
Good morning. Music for me is a spiritual and meditative practice, and it's a privilege for me to share it with you this morning. This is a song a lot of us love, out of the Teal hymnal, Meditation on Breathing. So I invite you to sing with me. It's 3 easy parts, or just let it wash over you.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out loud. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out in, I breathe out loud. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out loud. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out loud.
Blessed be.
Passover Remembered by Allah Renee Bozarth. Pack nothing. Bring only your determination to serve and your willingness to be free. Don't wait for the bread to rise. Take nourishment for the journey, but eat standing. Be ready to move at a moment's notice. Do not hesitate to leave your old ways behind. Fear, silence, submission. Only surrender to the need of time to love justice and walk humbly with your God. Begin quickly before you have time to sink back into the old slavery. Set out in the dark. I will send fire to warm and encourage you. I will be with you in the fire. I will be with you in the cloud. I will give you dreams in the desert to guide you safely home to that place you have not yet seen. I am sending you into the wilderness to make a new way and to learn my ways more deeply. Some of you will be so changed by the weather and wandering that even your closest friends will have to learn your features as though for the first time. Some of you will not change at all. Some will be abandoned by your dearest loves, misunderstood by those who have known you since your birth. Some will find new friendships in unlikely faces and old friends. Sing songs as you go and hold close together. You may at times grow confused and lose your way. Touch each other and keep telling stories. Make maps as you go, remembering the way back from before you were born. And so you will be only the first of many waves of deliverance on these desert seas. It is the first of many beginnings. Remain true to this mystery. Pass on the whole story. Do not go back. I am with you now and waiting for you. To enrich our worship today, Reverend Rose and Dr. Reverend Kendall Gibbons of All Souls, Kansas City, share their reflections on this poem.
Okay, this is Reverend Rose and Reverend Kendall, Reverend Dr. Kendall here, discussing Passover, and we are here during the time of quarantine. So that's a reading from Allah Renee Bozarth.
I love that. Well, I think two things. The image of I am with you and I am waiting for you. You know, that now and not yet, about where the holy is in our lives always, our individual lives and our collective lives. And then the sense of urgency, you know, that to get going before you slide back into your complacency, you know, but before that moment of crisis when you say, enough is enough, we have to change. You have to pick up on that energy. You have to go now, even though you're not ready, you're never ready.
Yeah, part of the story, part of the Exodus story that really stands out to me is that when they are fleeing, when they have made the choice and they have negotiated with Pharaoh to the point that they're able to leave, when they get to the sea and Pharaoh is still pursuing them, the seas don't part until they walk into it.
Until they take the step, right? Yes. And liberation comes at the price of tragedy for someone, you know, and that there's always a piece of destruction that goes with something new happening. I mean, the old has to be destroyed in the service of something new becoming possible. And there's always something tragic about that, no matter how necessary it is. I feel like all the time, the job of the church is to help encourage people to feel okay about the possibility of change and to be prepared to let go of whatever it is that we need to let go of about the old ways in order to bring about, greater justice and greater possibility and all those greater connection, all the things that we say that we want, mean something about what we have to also let go of.
I've been thinking a lot about the power of a particular community, a covenantal community that says we're going to do something together. How do we as a church community come through this time? And is it possible to part of that change to be a new vulnerability that you're willing to say, I need help? And what does that actually look like? And what does it actually look like if there were that kind of breaking down of that fragility, that we are not as fragile as we think we are, that if you ask for help, other people are going to be more willing to ask for help, and there might be some transformation or breaking down of all those fragile constructs that we, that shame and all that stuff around it.
There's no way to protect yourself given all the ways in which you are connected to all the other people in the world. It is one planet. It is one species. It is one interconnected web, as we are fond of saying. And nothing could more tangibly prove that than the fact that we are all in the same boat. And that the holy, the divine is waiting for us, just on the other side, like holding out its arms and saying, here, this is the place. Come, walk through the sea, walk through the fire, walk through the suffering, and I will meet you, I will be here.
Go ahead and wade out into the ocean.
Yeah, right. Because then the seas will part.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way. It's a powerful season.
When Jesus of Nazareth stooped down onto the dusty ground for his last supper, he was, of course, leading a Passover Seder, complete with unleavened bread. At this Seder, he told the story of Moses and the Jews, about how they had to leave quickly before the bread had a chance to rise, about how their escape from slavery drew up on them so swiftly that they had to abandon everything. Now, to tell this story, Jesus assumed a tall, meditative posture and reminded his disciples that their very ancestors had gone into the night, having seen their window of liberation and leapt at it. As Jesus closed his eyes and started to recite the story, the disciples' minds traveled back in time to remember Moses and the Israelites. Sepia-toned like a silent movie, they imagined Moses with his fist raised, cursing God for hardening Pharaoh's heart as the people wept and suffered. In their minds' eyes, they saw grimacing faces, frogs flying past, a sped-up image of Aaron's staff turning into a snake and eating all the other staffs, a burning bush igniting and going to ash, rivers running dark, all sorts of magic. One disciple interrupted Jesus and asked, "Did all that stuff really happen?" Jesus opened one eye and said, "No. And don't interrupt me." Now, as happens with good storytellers, there were one or two moments where Jesus lingered on a particular thought, speaking slowly to make sure they really got it. And as he was coming to just one of these moments, he said, the people had finally gotten the news that they were free. He paused and then went on saying, they moved swiftly, more swiftly than ever before in their lives, not even letting their eyes roam over the rooms in their houses, simply grabbing children by the wrist and running. At this, the disciples' eyes widened and they leaned forward, and Jesus went on. They didn't know where they were going. They only knew to do the next right thing, and it was to get away from Egypt. They had no clue what was on the other side of their fleeing. They just knew that something was changing and that deep in their bones they were being called onward. Jesus continued saying, they walked for a week, and the whole time their God was telling them to keep walking no matter what. But, Jesus forewarned, after 1 week of walking, they came upon an impassable barrier, not just a river, not just a massive lake, but the sea. When he got to the sea part, Jesus told everyone to get out a piece of paper and take notes. This was the part of the story he really wanted them to hear. And what he told them was this. When the Israelites got to the sea, a great despair swept through them. For the sea reached out all the way to the left and all the way to the right and everything in front of them. Like a wave of grief, they knew that they had come upon a point in their collective lives that they could not cross. There was no way. Just on the other side of this sea was safety, but they could only lament, tear their sackcloths, gnash their teeth, and weep. Jesus paused and let it sink in. The disciples looked forlorn. Simon was making a sad little circle in the dust with his heel. But do you remember Nashon, Jesus asked? Nashon, who thought of the words of his God? Nashon, who kept walking? The disciples all nodded. Jesus said, this one man was called forward by his conscience, and he walked straight into the sea. And he was scared as the water rose to his waist and to his armpit, so his arms were floating and up his neck until finally, when his nose touched the surface of the water, the sea suddenly sucked out from around him and parted, creating 2 towers on either side with a dry path all the way across the seafloor, straight to the other side for the people to walk across to safety. Thomas said, "Phew," and the disciples all laughed and patted each other on the back, relieved that the story had ended the same way as last year. Now, the moral of this myth, said Jesus to his disciples, is that the world isn't going to change on faith alone. We have to jump right into the life we want in order for it to actually happen. We have to do what we know we have to do and do it quickly, move for what is right in this world. For if it is to be found anywhere, the presence of the holy will be in our willingness to make changes for the things we say we want. It's only about our determination and our willingness to be free. It's about moving swiftly before we sink back into that old complacency, into the old hyper-productivity, into the old privatized healthcare, into the lethargy and the screen time, he said, looking pointedly at James, who had his phone out and was on Facebook. James put his phone down sheepishly, and Jesus said, "Only when we do what we know needs to be done will it be revealed to us what is just on the other side of our own modern-day slavery. Only when we do not hesitate to leave our old ways behind, only when we surrender to the need of time, will we finally walk humbly with our God. I think that's enough for today, said Jesus, for he had work to do. For Jesus knew that even though the world doesn't change on faith alone, he also knew that human beings like himself, have the agency, the divinity, and the community to make for the great stirring of miracles that no one had ever thought possible. Blessed be, and amen. And now a message about our courageous church from our upcoming board president, Dale Trott.
Hi, I'm Dale Trott, and I've been a member of this church along with my wife for the last 21 years. And I want to tell you why SMUUCh is important to me. I think it boils down to the fact that this is a place where I feel I can be my true self. My goofy, inquisitive, playful self and caring self. And here I feel that, and it's pretty special. I grew up as a Catholic in St. Louis for my youth, and when I moved to Kansas City area, I went unchurched for about 20 years. And I didn't realize how important that sense of community, that sense of being in a place where you feel completely welcomed and you can be your true self, how important that is in life. That's why my wife and I are very big supporters of this church, both in our time and our money. And frankly, I'm looking forward to next year when I'm the board president. I see a lot of great things we can do with this church. We've demonstrated some of that this year. We've had a few bumps in the road, but I think we have a very good community here at SMUUCh. And I hope our stewardship campaign is very successful. We will need the resources for our church to do the good work in the world that we are capable of doing. Thank you very much.
The work of the church depends on us, our generosity of time, wisdom, and financial resources. We invite you to give generously to support the ongoing work of the church. The offering will now be received in grateful appreciation of our shared values. Look for information in the video description below to give or to get your pledge in.
Somewhere little bees flying out there in the clear blue skies. Now that the machine stopped buzzing,
to us to realize that we gotta do some rearranging. The miracle is in our eyes. And I say, be free, honey, honey, be free. The sprouts are coming up, so are we. Open your eyes to your true beauty. Be all that you can be. Honey, be free.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please join me in closing hymn number 1074, Turn the World Around.
From the fire, living in the fire, go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water, go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living in the mountain, go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Whoa, so is life.
May you find some freedom this week in the spirit of Easter, Passover, and Ramadan. May you be free, honey. Please join us at 11:45 for online fellowship hour, and go in peace.